Are you looking to improve as a videographer? Maybe you've got a couple projects under your belt, but you're looking to up your skill set so that you can obtain higher paying clients and just be a better overall well-rounded videographer. As a professional self-taught videographer and college professor, I've got a lot to say on this subject that I think is going to help you out. And if you stick around until the end, I'm going to give you my final tip that I think is going to set you over the edge. Internet, welcome back. It's your boy Robert Teegarden here again today, talking to you on how to improve as a videographer, as a full-time professional videographer that's entirely self-taught. I've got a lot to say about this subject. I want to jump into my first issue, which I think is shot composition. Now, most people go right to gear and trying to continue to level up what that looks like. And I just don't think that this is the right move. I think improving your shot composition as a videographer is really going to give you your biggest bang for your buck. Trying to figure out exactly what does a frame look like, not just in a 16:9 widescreen, but a 9:16, and how can you effectively fill that frame in order to convey the emotional message that you're trying to. Now, things like where do you position the subject? How do you position other elements in the frame? Are there tangent lines? Are there things growing out of someone's head? Is there things that are chopping someone else's head off? Which angles in a room do you shoot to? Typically you shoot into the corner. Where do you place the light? Where do you place other objects in the frame? How do you balance a frame relative to your 9x grid so that you can see exactly how this thing looks and what type of emotion you want to convey? Do you shoot up at a subject because you want them to look more of a hero? Do you shoot down on them to make them feel more intimidated? Do you place them on the left of the frame? Do you place them on the right of the frame? Do you place them at the bottom of the frame like Mr. Magoo? Where do you put them and how is your shot composed is huge. I spent time really trying to create a single frame, meaning taking pictures of things in order to compose my image better, and went down this rabbit hole and trying to figure out exactly where my subject is relative to the emotion I'm trying to convey, and it really helped to level up what my images looked like. Next, I started to implement motion. Am I putting in sliders? Am I using dollies? Am I using gimbals to convey a certain emotion? Am I pushing in on a subject because something important is happening to them emotionally? Am I pulling back from them because I want them to be left in a particular element? All of these things go into shot composition, and all of these things are a free and easy way for you to use your existing gear to improve as a videographer. The next thing is lighting, and this kind of goes hand in hand with composition, and I'm not just referring to gear. I'm talking more specifically about the types of lighting you use and where you actually put them relative to your subject. If you're going to put something on the left side of the frame, meaning you're lighting what initially the viewer is seeing, you're conveying a more pleasing emotional image. Where you wrap that light, is it a Rembrandt? Is it other types of lighting, top down, bottom up, is going to convey an emotional message. Where your other lights that are filling the scene are concerned, like these practicals all the way over here, it's just a way to balance out your frame. Do you use color temperature to your advantage, making things cool to seem a little bit more of a thriller or horror scenes, warmth to give you the feeling of belonging and being more open? Are you using RGB for a particular reason? Do those colors balance off of what the image or subject is wearing? All of these things become incredibly important, and learning how to use light to your advantage to convey the emotion you're trying to convey is going to be able to level you up as a videographer and really increase your skill set. These two things, composition and lighting alone, to me are something that you should spend a tremendous amount of time on, because they're really free versions of you improving your skill set, and there's a ton of resources, not just on this channel but the internet abroad, on how to improve on those two things at large. The next thing I'm going to talk about, of course, your boy's going to talk about it. 70% of what you see is sound. Getting your sound dialed as a videographer is an amazing way to improve the quality of the experience your clients receive. Now, that can be from gear, of course, but that can also be from different miking techniques and other ways to utilize sound in terms of sound effects and sound design to level up what your video looks like. More specifically, what it sounds like. Using things like sound effects, using better miking techniques, using the distance and proximity effect that I've talked about on this channel a whole bunch of times gives you the ability to have a higher quality experience, even though the viewer can't necessarily put their finger on exactly why. Now, again, I've talked about 70% is what you see as sound a bunch of different times, but creating the sonic landscape that the viewer is experiencing, whether or not they perceive that, is going to be an unbelievably effective way to level the quality of your videos immediately. Now, once you start to factor in some EQing and balancing out where those sounds are in the overall stereo landscape of your piece, man, you really got something that's super effective, and again, pretty cheap, because most of the software that you're using is going to have these onboard tools and EQs and plugins ready for you to use at your disposal. Leveling up your sound, I mean, that's, if I got a bias, it's really sound, but you guys understand why. Make sure your sound is on point. The next thing, and probably one that you guys are going to be more excited about, is gear. Now, I'm not necessarily giving you permission to go and just drop a bunch of bennies on some new stuff, but gear really does help at a certain point in time. Once you've mastered the basics, your way to expand on those things is gear. Now, an analogy I use all of the time is in music. It used to be so exciting to go down to Guitar Center, Sam Ash, Musician's Friend, or even buy stuff on Amazon and get new pedals, new outboard gear, new stuff to make your shit sound awesome. But if you could never play in the first place, your gear never really made that big of a difference. It just made your sloppy playing even more sloppy. And I think of gear in the same way. You need to really know what you're doing in composing and lighting and creating a soundscape for your piece that's going to be effective. And once you have those things down, now you can start to invest in some really dope gear that's going to be above the basics of what you need. Things like motorized sliders, things like pushers and pullers, things like tables that spin. All of those types of things are super fun gear that you get to play around with, but they don't really mean shit unless you absolutely know how to use them effectively. Experimentation and creativity go hand in hand, and creating things that are off the cuff using new pieces of gear is really what keeps me engaged and excited about making movies and films. But if I never had a basis of what my skill set is, those things are kind of irrelevant. So, although I am telling you, invest in gear, create new awesome little things off of the stuff that you put together, I'm also telling you, just make sure that you master the basics and don't be afraid to go MacGyver on some stuff and create some crazy shit from what you have lying around the house. Gear is really important, but only at the appropriate time. And of course, if it works within your budget. Now, the last thing I'm going to tell you seems kind of obvious, but it really is, to me, one of the most effective ways of leveling up your skill set, and that's investing in courses. Now, everyone's got a course. We've got a course. There's a mentorship course. You can look at all these different things. Skillshare is an awesome place to look. You've got a bunch of places like Udemy, all those things, Coursera, that can give you the ability to have relatively inexpensive courses. You can also look at formal institutions like extension schools, film schools, those sorts of things. I teach at UCLA. They've got an incredible suite of products for filmmakers and cinematographers to level up your skill set. All of those things are great, but just make sure that you're taking the effective course to really pinpoint on the skill set that you're trying to use. I've taken a bunch of Jake Bartlett's Skillshare courses on After Effects and how to animate text motion graphics and those sorts of things, and they've become invaluable for the quality of content that I can put across the table. Same thing with color correction and color grading. Additionally, I've used things for cinematography. There's a bunch of resources that are out there, paid or free, on YouTube, which is being paid for by ads. Let's just be very clear about that. But all of those things I picked individually and pinpointed the skill that I needed to improve upon. It wasn't just some vast, huge sweeping of things that I got to look at and really just became overwhelmed. If I needed graphic design, I looked for graphic design. If I needed motion graphics, motion graphics. All of those things were particular skills that I needed to learn and that I used and Googled and figured out exactly how to accomplish them. So investing not only in the gear that you have, but more specifically in the skill set and the mindset that you have in order to produce those things is probably the biggest advantage that you're going to be able to give yourself. And that's why it's my final tip. Ladies and germs, if you like the video, like the damn video. If you haven't already, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for post notifications if you found value in this video and it helped you in any way, shape, or form. Let me know what your favorite skill was down in the comments below. I'd love to create more content surrounding this subject. And with that in mind, ladies and germs, this is Robert Teegarden with another video in the can. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.